So I'm Marsh Hudson Knapp. I'm a member of Second Congregational Church, where we're seated, and a member of the Greater Bennington Interfaith Council, and also a leader in Vermont Interfaith Action's local organizing committee, Bennington Organizing and Action, who is working on this project. I'd like to thank each of you for coming here and taking this time with us tonight and caring about our community. And I'd like us to begin by just closing our eyes and taking some deep breaths together. Let's take a nice deep breath in. Welcome in the life and let it out and release anything that's been weighing on us or hanging on inside so that we can just be open to each other and to life. Let's take another nice deep breath in, filling with fresh energy and openness to the spirit of life. And then releasing. O breath of every human breath, we offer our deep thanks for sustaining the miraculously complex processes that allow each of us to live for one more precious day today. We offer gratitude for shaping a heart beating inside us, a heart that not only circulates your life through our bodies, but also a spirit heart that opens us with compassion to one another and in solidarity with the hurts and hopes of every person in our communities. Thank you for making us one family and for stirring up our spirits to look out for and protect the most vulnerable among us. Move us forward together in ever-growing compassion and community. May it be so. Amen.
Good evening. I'm Reverend Jeannie Alexander, a member of Earth Fire Abbey and a leader with Bennington Organizing and Action. On behalf of all those who have gathered here, I express our heartfelt gratitude and appreciation for your willingness to attend and learn more about the struggles of some of our neighbors here in southern Vermont. The faith communities in Bennington feel strongly about caring for our neighbors and working towards a safer, more inclusive town for everyone. Our group is made up of a diverse representation from 5 different faith communities here in Bennington. Our faiths call us to actively work towards bringing about these kinds of changes. Collectively, across our faiths, we are called to care for the stranger, the orphan and the widow, the prisoner, and in truth, all who are members of our community. This call to humanitarianism transcends categories of faith or creed. There is enough for everyone when we choose to live out of abundance rather than fear. And we are excited to have you join us as we work together to ensure that everyone belongs in Bennington.
Good evening. I am Jack Rossiter-Munley. I'm with the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship here in Bennington, and also a leader in Vermont Interfaith Action's local organizing group, Bennington Organizing and Action. I am here to give you a quick word on the agenda for today. As you can see from the program, there's a lot to cover in a short amount of time. We also have a group of dedicated Vermont Interfaith Action leaders who have spent a lot of time and energy conducting research and putting together the information that we want to present today. So to ensure that they have the opportunity to accomplish everything that they intend to do this evening, for these reasons, we're only inviting those on the program to speak at tonight's event. We will ask questions of each of our guests. Each person is requested to answer the initial questions with a yes or no answer, After all of the questions have been given to and have been answered with a yes or no, then the guests will be given 2 minutes to elaborate on their answers and share their own thoughts about the issues that we're discussing tonight. Our timekeeper will make sure that we stay on time, and our timekeeper is going to be Wendy Lyons, another member of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Bennington and a leader in Bennington Organizing and Action. We will let our speakers know when their speaking time is coming close to its end. There will be a sign that gets held up that says 30-second warning. You'll see it right over here. It'll be very easy. Next, we will hear from Rabbi Seth Reamer, who will present Vermont Interfaith Action and Bennington Organizing and Action's credential.
Good evening. I'm Seth Reamer, Rabbi of Congregation Beth El, and a member of Vermont Interfaith Action. Vermont Interfaith Action is a coalition of more than 70 faith communities and individuals working together to effect systemic change around challenges facing our communities and state. Altogether, we represent more than 16,000 people. Our member congregations are Protestant, Catholic, Jewish, and Unitarian Universalist. Individual participants also come from the Muslim, Hindu, and Buddhist traditions. We regularly work in Chittenden, Washington, Windham, and Bennington counties. Over the past decade, VIA has successfully addressed healthcare reform, affordable housing, homelessness, corrections reform, public transportation, and education. Our issues are chosen using a grassroots methodology that involves listening campaigns with members of our congregations and communities. Once we choose an issue, VIA volunteers conduct thorough research to be well-informed and to uncover possible solutions. Then, in large public events called actions, we share with decision makers our ideas, research, and personal stories of those directly affected by the issue. Our goal is to work with authorities to improve the quality of life for all Vermonters, bringing the values of justice and compassion to the public square as our faith traditions guide us. In August, we established a local VIA organizing committee to research the issue of warming and cooling sheltering here in Bennington. We call ourselves Bennington Organizing and Action. We're an interfaith group living out our shared beliefs by taking specific, tangible actions towards ensuring all our residents have a welcoming place in the community and the ability to live a dignified life here in Bennington.
As you can imagine, there are a lot of different faith groups and organizations that are invested in this work, and so I would like to welcome and recognize some of those groups. So when I call out your faith community or organization, please stand up as you are able and remain standing. Second Congregational Church of Bennington. Woo! Second, St. Peter's Episcopal Church. The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Bennington, Congregation Beth El, Earth Fire Abbey, the Church of the Good Shepherd, College Street Congregational Church of Burlington, Bennington Rutland Opportunity Council, Turning Point Center of Bennington, Pathways Vermont, SVMC, VCIL, and the Bennington Peace and Justice Center, and all of those who are from congregations who are friends of Vermont Interfaith Action, or those who are part of organizations that are coalition partners. And there's one that I'd particularly like to mention, the Bennington County Coalition for the Homeless. Roxanne, who is their interim director, sends her regrets. She wished she could be here, but was very ill and unable to attend, but wants everyone to know that she is here with us in spirit tonight. And I see some members of the board are here as well, so that's wonderful. All of our friends and neighbors in the community are also welcome to stand at this time. Thank you all for being here and demonstrating with your presence your commitment to this shared work. You may all be seated. Our opening reflection for the evening will be given by Father Jeremy Means-Koss.
Good evening. I'm Father Jeremy Means-Koss from St. Peter's Episcopal Church here in Bennington. What's funny is when I left DC, I thought I left all the acronyms behind, and that just reminded me that you can never leave all the acronyms behind. It's fine. Because we are an interfaith group and a beyond faith group in coming together for this cause, rather than read a piece of scripture, I actually said Maya Angelou this morning in my sermon was my favorite poet, and so I feel like to defend that claim to my fellow members, I am going to read a poem from her. I note the obvious differences in the human family. Some of us are serious, some of us thrive on comedy, some declare their lives are lived as true profundity, and others claim they really live the real reality. The variety of our skin tones can confuse, bemuse, delight, brown and pink and beige and purple, tan and blue and white. I've sailed upon the 7 seas and stopped in every land. I've seen the wonders of the world, not yet one common man. I know 10,000 women called Jane and Mary Jane, but I've never seen any two who really were the same. Mirror twins are different, although their features jibe, and lovers think quite different thoughts while laying side by side. We love and lose in China, we weep on England's moors, and laugh and moan in Guinea, and thrive on Spanish shores. We seek success in Finland, are born and die in Maine. In minor ways we differ, in major ways we're the same. I note the obvious differences between each sort and type, but we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. I don't know if any of you you don't have to raise your hand on this, but if you've ever woken up and you're like, the boiler is out and I have to go downstairs and turn it on. And it's this moment where you're like, but I'll do it because you know what? It'll warm me back up, it'll be fine. And you suffer through those few moments where you wake up freezing. But you know it's okay because you can turn your boiler back on. You can press the little red reset. You can do the thing that so many cannot. And we never take that moment for granted, of how many don't have a reset button they can press to change the circumstances in their lives, have a short journey to travel with a small amount of effort to radically live in a different circumstance. We have that opportunity. Amen.
Next, we will hear testimonials from some of those living here in the Bennington community who are not able to press that reset button.
Hi. I would like to read two testimonies that I transcribed. The persons who are testifying were afraid to be here tonight and speak at the microphone. They're both marginalized. They were afraid of some kind of retaliation. They did, however, let me record their statements, and they did say that I could identify them by initials. So first we have a testimony from J.O. Hi, I'm somebody who doesn't have anywhere to live. I'm so glad that I finally got a motel room. Being outside all day when it's cold and wet and really windy is hard. Last winter when I was wet and cold, I was sleeping on a porch. I'm lucky because somebody gave me this little cart. I can put all my stuff in it. Not that I have a lot of stuff, but it's all I have. So I guess I'm lucky. I somehow hurt my hand, but it was really cold out, and it was cold enough that I didn't really feel it badly. I went to sleep on the porch. The next morning, someone woke me up saying it was later than I usually get up. And just so you know, when I leave, I don't leave any junk or trash behind. Anyway, the person woke me up and asked if I was okay, and looked at my hand and said, "Oh my, that looks really infected. Doesn't it hurt?" And I said, "I don't know, my hands are really cold. I thought that was why it hurt." And the lady said, "You need to go to the hospital." Problem was, I didn't know what to do with my cart. All I own in this world is in that cart, and it wouldn't fit in the ambulance. Somebody was nice enough to let me take it in their backyard. I went to the hospital and had a bad infection. I had to stay there a couple of days. I'm so glad that I now have a motel, but I know a lot of people that don't have anywhere to stay. I don't want them to get sick from being out in the cold without even knowing they're sick. I was just lucky someone told me to go to the hospital. If I had had somewhere to go that was warmer, I might never have had that problem. The next testimony I'd like to read is from GS. Hi, I live in a third-floor apartment in Bennington. I don't have a lot of money, but I do manage to pay my rent every month. I'm in my late 60s, and I have really bad asthma. In the summer, especially if it's humid, it gets really hot in my apartment. Not only can't I afford an air conditioner, but I wouldn't be able to afford the electricity that goes with it. I pay my own utilities. Last summer, I had a terrible asthma attack. I do have medicines, but I couldn't seem to get it under control. It was really hot out, and it was really humid out. Luckily, I called 911, and they came and got me, because I could hardly breathe at all when I went to the emergency room. They told me I should get an air conditioner because heat and humidity made my asthma really bad. They said it was a good thing I came in because my oxygen was low. It could have been a disaster for me. I'm really glad I stayed in the hospital a couple of days. I was kind of surprised because it was only in the 80s that day, but I guess it was a lot of humidity. That's what they told me at the hospital, that I need to go somewhere cooler than my apartment if it ever gets to be that kind of heat again. I would love to have somewhere to go if that happens again this summer.
We will now hear a report of the research conducted by members of Bennington Organizing and Action.
Community action for severe weather preparedness. Background and research. Bennington Organizing and Action, the local organizing committee of Vermont Interfaith Action, has conducted extensive research over the past year on Bennington's readiness to provide public health and safety services in light of increasingly severe weather conditions. Members of BOA have met with representatives from the State Health Department, the Bennington County Regional Commission, the BCRC, Bennington town officials, and representatives of other municipalities to gather crucial information. While Vermont is well known for its cold winters, in recent years, severe heat and humidity in the summer months have also become a public health concern. Bennington currently lacks a drop-in warming and cooling shelter. Therefore, any emergency shelter provision falls under the purview of the town's local emergency management plan. LEMP. The LEMP is a document every municipality in Vermont is required to create and update annually. The purpose of the plan is to identify locations and resources for emergency sheltering, as well as the individuals and organizations responsible for staffing and managing the emergency response. The template for the plan is provided by the Bennington County Regional Commission. The Emergency Management Director, the EMD, is responsible for filling in the required details of the plan. Bennington's EMD is the Chief of Police, Paul Doucette. The Select Board is responsible for adopting the local emergency management plan annually at a warned public meeting. The LEMP is presently on the agenda for the next Select Board meeting on April 22nd. We encourage the public to attend this meeting and share your thoughts on this issue with the board. After adoption by the Select Board, it will be submitted back to the BCRC for approval and filing. Citizens of Bennington have long expressed concern about the lack of drop-in warming and cooling shelter. And while this goal is one which should still be pursued, our research led us to consider the broader concern of public health and safety that's related to extreme weather conditions. There are a number of reasons why extreme weather preparedness should be a concern for the general public, with a particular focus on our most vulnerable populations, such as the elderly, children, the unhoused, those with medical conditions, and those who may lack adequate heating or cooling due to financial constraints. The weather in Bennington has changed significantly over the last several decades. Winter and summer weather has become sporadic and hard to predict. Storms are stronger with high winds and heavy rain. Days of extreme heat and sudden plunges or surge in temperatures are more common. While our winters are trending warmer, this doesn't make them safer. Rain, snow, water, and wind can cause the skin to cool faster, which leads to frostbite. Wet skin and clothes draw heat from the body quickly. Warmer, wetter winters with sudden plunges into freezing temperatures are especially dangerous. The dangers of extreme weather are not limited to the winter. The Vermont Department of Health reports that similar numbers of Vermonters visit the emergency room or call 911 each year for heat and cold weather conditions. According to the Vermont government website, Vermont's summers are growing warmer, wetter, and more humid. Average temperatures in Vermont have already risen 3 degrees Fahrenheit since 1901, resulting in more days each year when heat impacts health. The Vermont Department of Health reports that at the Burlington International Airport, hot days, those exceeding 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and warm nights above 70 degrees Fahrenheit have occurred more than twice as often since 2010 as compared to the previous 60 years. Average temperatures in Vermont are projected to increase by an additional 3 to 12 degrees Fahrenheit by 2100, leading to more frequent and harmful hot weather in the future. Humidity amplifies the real feel of heat and further inhibits the body's ability to cool itself. It also increases the likelihood that temperatures will remain high overnight. Without the ability to get reprieve from the heat, the strain on vulnerable people's bodies becomes extremely dangerous. Hot weather of this degree is new to Vermont, and our infrastructure is not designed to handle it. Many homes and public buildings do not have air conditioning. Heat and sun exposure is dangerous for all of us, but for children, the elderly, and those with chronic health conditions, it can be deadly. Their bodies are less capable of adjusting to extreme temperatures. Furthermore, children are out of school in the summer and often lack cool spaces to escape the heat. The Vermont Health Department also reports that since 1965, annual precipitation in Vermont has increased by 7 inches. And the number of days per year with precipitation of 1 inch or more has nearly doubled. These trends are anticipated to continue, and combined with high winds, increase the likelihood of infrastructure damage and power outages, putting people at risk of losing the ability to heat and cool their homes. While these extreme weather events are becoming more frequent and more severe, Bennington's local emergency management plan hasn't been activated since 2012, when it was activated in anticipation of Hurricane Sandy. Conditions were such that that plan ultimately was not implemented. Currently, the plan is focused on natural disasters like floods and hurricanes, which threaten the entire town, county, or state. These are important events to be prepared for, obviously. But we need to be equally prepared for regularly occurring emergency weather conditions that impact our most vulnerable populations. The current plan as written identifies some of the resources available to the town, emergency contacts, and shelter locations. However, our research meeting with Chief Doucette revealed that his knowledge and experience goes far beyond what's outlined in the plan. He identified additional resources, specific quantities of resources, additional possible shelter locations, and additional partner organizations. This included learning that there is a Red Cross trailer parked behind the Bennington Fire Facility at all times that contains 50 cots, blankets, and pillows. One of our concerns is that this expansive knowledge and experience is heavily centralized around our police chief, which allows for a strong response as long as he is available to manage the situation. But as crises are by nature unpredictable, we are concerned about an event where circumstances could render him unable to perform these services. We were informed that a second in command is already being sought out. In addition to training a second in command, detailing the additional information Chief Doucette has accumulated through years of experience is essential. Those are not easy shoes to fill, and we need a plan which anyone can pick up and promptly use in a crisis situation. More specifically, we need a detailed plan in document form that can be implemented in a crisis situation by community leaders. We must plan for resiliency, and resilience requires a community response to crisis. Another area of concern is that most of our aid and support comes from outside the town and county, leaving us vulnerable in circumstances which might isolate Bennington from the rest of the state. We should work towards building local resilience so that we can address a crisis even without outside aid. The template for the LEMP, provided by the BCRC, encourages the creation of annexes with detailed plans of action for specific situations such as this. The current primary shelter location identified is the middle school. This space can house 200 people, though only 50 cots, blankets, and pillows are locally available. While this site may be suitable for major disasters like hurricanes and severe flooding, it is not practical or feasible to use this space during more frequent instances of extreme heat and cold. We were also informed that research is being done to identify and confirm secondary shelter locations throughout the town. It is essential that at least one secondary location identified is capable of being activated for reoccurring acute weather events. This location must also be suitable for overnight use when hot and cold temperatures are often most dangerous. A plan for staffing a location in such an event must be created, for example, by forming a local volunteer medical corps, which could be called upon to man an emergency shelter. The Vermont Health Department has communicated with towns and municipalities, encouraging them to create plans and designate locations for extreme heat events. Identifying cooling sites have been added to a map available online. Currently, Bennington's only designated locations for relief from heat include the downtown splash pad, Bennington Free Library, John G. McCullough Free Library, and Lake Perrin. Hours of operation for at least 3 of the 4 sites are limited, and none are open in the evening. 2 of these locations are not open 7 days a week. Furthermore, access to Lake Perrin requires A, transportation, and B, a paid annual membership fee or a daily admission fee of $3.50 for adults and $1 for kids. Actions such as arranging transportation with Green Mountain Transit and free entry on days of extreme heat could be included in a new plan. The annex is recommended in the template provided by BCRC for completion by the town provides the opportunity to address these specific types of emergency situations. Creating annexes detailing plans for extreme heat and extreme cold would help Bennington establish better local resilience in the face of climate change. Another issue identified during our research was activation of the LEMP. Currently, the LEMP is only activated at the discretion of the police chief, who serves as Bennington's emergency management director. There are no written guidelines, protocols, or criteria for implementation in the current plan. Our research revealed that very specific parameters are given by the State Health Department for determining adverse weather conditions. These parameters included calculations of temperature, humidity, precipitation, and wind chill. When the parameters are met or projected, it is the responsibility of the state to alert local municipalities of these conditions. Using these parameters and notifications by the state of adverse weather conditions as an automatic activation mechanism would clarify and systematize LEMP activation and implementation and provide us with objective criteria for implementing the plan. So, solutions. BOA recognizes that there have been efforts, like the distribution of motel vouchers to assist Bennington residents during the coldest months of the year. These actions do not constitute long-term solutions, nor do they adequately address the diversity of severe weather events and vulnerable populations. We would like Bennington to take a more expansive and comprehensive approach to emergency planning. Here is our list of proposed actions and solutions for making Bennington a safer place for all of us. First, create definitions and criteria for severe hot and cold weather conditions, based on, but not limited to, those used by the state for defining adverse weather conditions that necessitate implementation of the emergency plan. Second, revisit and rewrite the Town of Bennington LEMP to include specific plans for addressing extreme heat and cold weather conditions through additional annexes. The full guidance for severe hot and cold weather plans is to be found online, and we can provide you with that information if you would like it. Third, prepare a detailed written plan for implementing the LEMP and conduct training sessions for all key town personnel and community leaders with emergency responsibilities. While the responsibility for announcing a severe weather emergency rests with the emergency management director, there should be an identified second in command who can make timely decisions if the director is unavailable. 4, identify at least one shelter site in downtown Bennington for use during severe weather conditions, recognizing that the public sites currently identified for heat and cold relief are not open at night when weather conditions can be the most threatening. The availability of a centrally located overnight shelter provides for Bennington's residents who may not have home conditions sufficient to keep them healthy and safe when it is very cold or very hot and humid. Especially vulnerable residents include older adults, families with young children, unhoused people, unaccompanied teens, and people with vulnerable medical conditions. 5, establish a community-wide approach to addressing severe weather conditions and engage local individuals and organizations in responding to weather emergencies. This might include instituting systems to distribute heating and cooling devices, the creation and training of a community volunteer severe weather medical corps, and fostering local, state, and federal partnerships to secure funds to address increasing public health and safety needs in our town. In conclusion, BOA is asking officials of the Town of Bennington to follow the advice of Vermont Health Department and adopt local hazard mitigation plans, local emergency operating plans, and other plans to help reduce vulnerabilities. While we recognize that the town has an emergency management plan in place, we feel that it is incomplete and it does not address extreme weather. In the past, officials responsible for emergency planning have not identified severe weather conditions as a health and safety threat that requires activation of the existing emergency management plan. We are encouraging town officials to recognize the urgent need to redefine our approach to local resiliency and emergency response planning. The space for creating more targeted responses is well within the scope of what the LEMP is designed for, and many of the necessary resources are already available. We simply need to identify, organize, and utilize them. The commitment to take these actions, town officials working with community members will make Bennington a safer, healthier place to live. Thank you.
So based on its extensive research that was in that report and some of the suggested solutions, Bennington Organizing and Action has crafted a set of questions that will be asked of some of our town officials who are here in attendance tonight. I'm going to invite Mary Garish to the stage, who will introduce those officials, welcome them to the stage, and ask those questions.
Good evening. I'm Mary Garish, and I am a leader in Vermont Interfaith Action Local Organizing Committee, the BOA. And I am very pleased to welcome some of our local officials here tonight. Jeannie Jenkins was invited. She was going to be out of town, and this is several weeks ago she told us this. She expressed interest in the results of the research and actually submitted written answers, which Debbie Ingram will read. So she will be sitting in Jeannie Jenkins' chair. We are also proud and honored to have Chief Paul Doucette and Select Board Member Tom Haley with us tonight to answer these questions. If you would please step forward and have a seat. Okay, there you go. We will begin by asking these yes or no questions, and to which Jeannie has already responded. So the first question is, do you commit to revising the local emergency management plan in the following ways? First question, to include activation during extreme heat and cold, anytime extreme weather conditions as specified by the state are met.
Yes.
Chief Doucette?
Yes.
Half suspect.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. Okay. So just yes or no the first time.
The first time, yes.
And Tom Haley. Great. Thank you. And the second question is, do you commit to revising the local emergency plan to support creation of a detailed plan of operation in writing, including creating annexes in the emergency plan, specifically for extreme heat and cold? Jeannie?
Yes.
Chief?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Thank you. The third question is, do you commit to revising the emergency plan to include the elderly, medically compromised, and unhoused on the vulnerable populations list in that plan?
Yes.
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 Thank you. The next yes or no question, and I should have mentioned earlier that once we get through with the yes or no part of this, you will each get an opportunity to address your thoughts on these questions for a couple of minutes, if you should choose. So the second question is, do you commit to identifying and detailing in the plan a shelter location for 12 to 15 people in downtown Bennington for daytime or overnight stay according to weather conditions, including providing cots, food, and support staff. Jeannie?
Yes and no, which I'll explain in my longer answer.
Thank you. Chief Doucette?
Yes and no, which I will explain. It's tough to just say yes or no.
I know, it is. Tom?
I also, yes and no, which I will explain.
Thank you. The next question that's yes or no is, do you commit to identifying and training a second in command for emergency plan response? Jeannie?
Yes.
Chief?
Yes. Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
All right. The next one is, do you commit to working with the state to establish a local volunteer medical corps in Bennington? Jeannie?
Yes.
Chief?
Work with the state to accomplish a medical reserve corps in Bennington. That's the question?
A local volunteer medical corps in Bennington.
Yeah, I would commit yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Thank you. Now I would like to give each of you 3 minutes to respond or add to the yes or no answers. And our timekeeper over here, Wendy Lyons, will show you, I know we said this earlier, but I'm just for make sure everybody knows, we'll hold up a 30-second marker when it's almost your time. So, first we'll hear Jeannie's responses.
She wrote, I see the goal of the LEMP and by extension the regional emergency plan as figuring out a coherent plan for all emergency events, including extreme cold and heat. The plan requirements seem very anemic on this point. I think our goal is to go further. As we are all aware, finding appropriate shelter for an extreme weather event and a lead organization to manage this kind of event continue to be the central issues. The town is not a social service organization. A shelter would need to be under the direction of a social service organization. The town does not have the expertise to assess client needs, organize services, or recruit and train volunteers. Nor should we own a shelter. We are happy to help find an appropriate organization that can step up and to assist in finding grants to make necessary upgrades to a shelter to meet health and safety codes. This will involve the full community, and I see the town and select board helping facilitate this. As those of us learned at the recent LEMP training, there is already a state list and also a rescue squad database of individuals that have opted in to emergency notification. The lists are confidential and so can't be included in the LEMP. Since this involves individual privacy issues, it seems to me that the role of the town and community partners should be to publicize these services and explain why they will be essential in an emergency. At the LEMP training, a representative from another town mentioned that they saw tourists as fitting into this category, as they are unfamiliar with resources in the area and could be vulnerable in a crisis situation. I think that is a good reminder to us to think beyond the usual definition of vulnerable under different scenarios. As regards shelter locations, there are 2 distinct needs in the LEMP. One is for mass evacuation and disaster shelter. We have identified both Mount Anthony Union Middle and High Schools as able to serve that function. We are working to find a 3rd mass shelter location. These shelters would each accommodate hundreds of people. The town does have some cots, 20 or so, and our safety services would need to provide emergency staff. We no longer have local Red Cross services. They are now deployed out of New Hampshire, and so they would bring supplies and staff as soon as they were able. A second shelter for short-term extreme weather-related issues brings different considerations. As noted earlier, we can certainly assist in identification of a lead partner for an extreme weather shelter and in identifying funding sources to bring a shelter space up to code. As the recent motel exit emergency plan from the governor's office illustrated, we do not currently have a ready space to support individuals for short-term shelter. The space must meet health and safety codes. We will all need to work together to figure this out. Lastly, having been told by a local state agency that the Volunteer Medical Corps was in Rutland, I was surprised to hear that at least 2 local VMC volunteers were called up in the recent governor's emergency plan in Bennington. I'm aware of at least 1 additional person in Bennington who has been eager to join. So figuring out what has prevented us from having a truly local VMC is important. And then, of course, we should have a local team. Beyond that, it will be important for all of us to understand what training, equipment, or compensation needs are required. If it means finding financial resources, then again, it will be important to identify this and look at where that funding will be found.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Excellent job. Excellent. It's like you were reading it. Perfect. So let me start out by telling you that I cannot answer this in 3 minutes. I'm going to do the best that I can to tell you what my expertise is and what I do know, and make just a few corrections. And this is not to be critical. The Local Emergency Management Plan, the LEMP, is actually a document that's created by the state of Vermont. We do everything through our local office here, Dara Zink at the Regional Planning Commission. I've been doing this for about 15 years. I want to share with you that we do have 1 shelter at Mount Anthony Union Middle School that is up to speed and up to par in what it needs to be in the event we had to house people overnight. That shelter is activated. The Red Cross would come in, and Jeannie's 100% correct, because we've talked. The American Red Cross now operates out of the state of New Hampshire. We don't have them here in Vermont. We have 1 local person down in Pownell that we can call. He's usually Johnny on the spot, and will come up and assist, and he'll make phone calls so that we can get that shelter set up. But again, we've only done that about 3 times. On a positive note, Mount Anthony Union High School is making some very positive changes. Just last week, we met with the administrative staff over at Mount Anthony High School, and we had the opportunity to learn what the changes are going to be at the high school. Air conditioning in the auditorium, air conditioning in the cafeteria, air conditioning in the gymnasium. That is definitely a step in the right direction for Bennington, because during the extreme heat months, the summer, school is not in session. Yes, I wish I was a school teacher, but just kidding. So the bottom line is that we are starting to make some strides there as far as having a second shelter location. We wanted to have that second shelter location as a result of the river dividing Bennington. And let's be honest, Mount Anthony Union High School is in a floodplain a bit, and going up to the middle school is definitely an advantage because it's high up on the hill. And we're currently working on that. That's going to create quite a bit of paperwork and draft documents that will have to be reviewed by the superintendent of schools. So with all of that being said, I think that we're headed in the right direction as far as that goes. I will just quickly address, before I get the sign from Wendy, is that the medical corps, the volunteer medical corps, is managed by the Vermont Department of Health. That's not managed by the town of Bennington. Managed by the Department of Health. And I just want to say this, and this is not to offend anyone in this room, and it's not to be funny. Please, for a moment, look around this room. Look at the ages of the people that are in this room, people that care about our community. Right? There's not a lot of young people here with us tonight. To be part of the medical corps, except you, Father, young man. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just saying, seriously, look around the room. It's the same thing with our volunteer fire departments, right? And the medical corps requires training. You don't just join the medical corps and say, I'm here to help. You have to go through all sorts of training. If you jump on the Vermont Health Department's website, you'll see there's a lot of training that you have to do to be part of that. So is the town willing to commit to working with the Vermont Department of Health to try to build that core here back up in Bennington? I would say yes to that. But it's going to take training and the Vermont Department of Health to actually fill all those vacancies that we have so we can have that medical reserve corps here.
Thank you, Chief Doucette. Tom, do you have any additional comments you'd like to make?
Just a few, and I will keep it brief because I can't see Wendy.
Oh.
Where I was sitting.
Here, she's gonna.
I will keep it as brief as possible because I think the chief and Jeannie in her comments really covered pretty well everything I was about to say. So what I'd really like to just take a chance here to talk about is that gatherings like this one are the ways we're going to, are a big part of how we are going to actually come together and solve these problems. Me and my seat on the select board, Jeannie and her seat on the select board, we're one voice out of 7, and we have to work together to come to some sort of consensus. But what every other person here in this room can do is come to us and give us your views. You're welcome to come to the meetings. You're welcome to send us emails. Some of you have my phone numbers, but I don't give it to everybody. The point being, I was surprised when I was first elected to the board how infrequently I hear from members of the community on almost every issue. I get maybe 1 or 2 emails a month on any given topic, and it's usually from the same people. So we can't do our jobs to the best of our abilities in a vacuum. So I would like to thank everyone for putting this meeting together here tonight. I think we have opportunities to move forward if we all work together. And if we stop the pointing of fingers at people and saying, you're not doing enough, you're not doing enough. We're Vermonters, we take care of our neighbors, we work together to do it. And I think, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. So I want to really thank each of you for your thoughtful responses tonight and for coming here. And we have one final question. It is a yes or no question that we would also like to ask you. And that is, do you commit to meeting with leaders from the Bennington Organizing and Action Committee 6 months from now to give us a progress report on the commitments that you made tonight?
Yeah, I have the microphone already.
Yeah.
That's a difficult question to answer because I'm not sure that just meeting with this one group is necessarily the best way to go about it. I would invite this group to come together with all, because there are a lot of other groups of social service organizations that are here. And I think that we all need to be tied together in that. And how the information is going to get out, do we have to have another meeting exactly like this? Is that the question?
Just for clarification, Tom, no, I don't think it was that we have another meeting like this. And it wasn't saying, will you only meet with the Bennington Organizing and Action Committee? It was just asking if you would meet with the Bennington Organizing and Action Committee 6 months from now as a progress report and update.
I'd be happy to meet with anybody at any given point in time. But all of our meetings are public, so the actions that we've taken up to this date should be pretty evident to anyone that's paying attention. As the progress does go ahead. As they said at the beginning of this meeting, the local emergency management plan is on the agenda for our next select board meeting, and we really encourage public input at our meetings. So please come.
Thank you, Tom. Chief?
I'm going to give you the condensed version. The condensed version is, the answer to that question is, yes, I would be willing to meet again, of course. I want you all to know that the local emergency management plan is a living and breathing document. It can be changed throughout the year. The reason why you're required to have the LEMP on file with the state of Vermont is if we do have a disaster or some type of emergency and we don't have a basic plan on file, we're not eligible for resources and funding. Okay, so that plan is a basic plan. I understand the need and the want for annexes to be placed in the back of the LEMP, and I think that 6 months is fair. I hope it doesn't take 6 months, and but the answer is yes, I would be willing to meet. However, bringing in other community resources, Bennington Rescue, the hospital, and other organizations that need to be part of the planning, because I can't commit as the emergency management director. I can't commit the Bennington Rescue Squad. I can't commit all the local fire departments, and I need to know, quite honestly, from the town manager and from the chair of the board, what financial resources would be available that we don't have, or we don't have resources from the state of Vermont, and what we need to supplement that. So the answer is yes.
Thank you. And Jeannie answered?
She said, yes, but to be successful, this has to be a community-wide discussion. I think that in 6 months' time, we should assess our progress as a full community. Solving this problem will require a dedicated group to come to the table to work together. The Select Board is already connected with BCRC, who can facilitate continuing this work. It appears to me that all the social service and safety partners are currently involved in Project Alliance. The report back should be to the full community. I'm really happy and grateful that BOA has stepped up to reinvigorate this discussion. I hope that next year at this time we will be implementing solutions.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you for being here. We really appreciate your help on this. You can either stay here or have a seat, whatever you prefer.
So, what have we learned tonight? We've heard testimonies from people in the Bennington community. We've heard research from Bennington Organizing and Action. And we have also heard from clergy members encouraging us to reflect on our shared commitment to each other. We have also heard Bennington Organizing and Action's carefully researched proposed solutions. We've posed some questions, and we've heard some responses from elected officials to these questions. So now is the time for all of you to become part of this action. I was so happy to hear the encouragement to involvement coming from our elected officials as well. We're all on the same page. This is the time for us to all work together. After hearing what's been shared, we invite all of you to share your thoughts and concerns with the Select Board and with the Police Chief. There are 3x5 cards making their way throughout all of you right now. Please return those to the registration table with your thoughts and questions as you are leaving this evening. And before we conclude, I have a couple of invitations for you. First, there will be a brief evaluation session of this evening. That is intended mostly for those who are familiar with the Vermont Interfaith Action model of organizing to help consistently improve evenings like this and Vermont Interfaith Action and its work. If you'd like to be part of the evaluation, I invite you to join us in the choir area immediately after we adjourn. We will dodge around the ropes as necessary. Second, if you are not already a member of Vermont Interfaith Action and you'd like to learn more about VIA and the local chapter, Bennington Organizing and Action, you can talk to anyone who is here with a name tag. We would be happy to give you more information, and you can also check out the table in the back on your way out. Third, if you would like to be kept informed about upcoming events, please make sure that you have given your name, address, and contact information on the sign-up sheets, which are also at the table from where you came back into the sanctuary. And as has been noted several times this evening, the Select Board will be discussing the emergency management plan at the next Select Board meeting, which will take place at 6 p.m. at the Bennington Fire Facility on April 22nd, which is a Monday evening. And finally, we would like to invite Reverend Kathy Duhan, a member of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, to lead us in a closing prayer.
O Spirit of love, holy and powerful, bless this community gathered here. Send us forth to do this work, to seek justice, to live with compassion, to help those who are in difficult situations. So let us go forth in peace to serve. Amen.